Today, in my watercolor gel printing series, you can watch me print, paint and work out these two. Stay tuned. Hello Gelli fans! Here you see me preparing the watercolors for this second part of the gel plate watercolor session. The colors I used are all listed in the info box below. I use these watercolors for both images I am creating today, and I will not be using the gel plate for the first one. For the second image I will use it and compare the effects with the first. This is a Hahnemühle watercolor selection block, 14 sheets with different grammature and texture. This is sheet 5, Hahnemühle 300 GSM mould-made, cold pressed. I am taping this sheet down, for it will likely be buckling, and this will also give me a nice rim or frame. For taping, I'm always using micropore surgical tape by 3M. It never lets any paint run under it, and it is better to take off than regular masking tape. To save expensive tape, I'm using one stripe for two sides. To wet the paper, I am using a China watercolor brush that is very reasonably priced. It's almost off camera, sorry for that, but note that I am kind of massaging the water into it at the beginning. Then I am striking the surface and slowly pushing the water into the paper, going horizontally and vertically, and taking care that the water is soaked up evenly by the paper. By all means, avoid any puddles on the surface. And now I'm coming in with the paint that I've diluted with a bit of water. This one is the Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet by Daniel Smith. It's a wonderful color. And this one is the Light Ochre by Schminky Horadam. It's just a yellow. And also the Piemontite Genuine by Primatek that you see me using before. I'm coming in with here just a little bit, but as the red paint is still on the brush, it kind of mixes before it hits the surface even. Now I'm coming in with a cling film, and I've done this many times. It works wonderfully with watercolor. I let this dry for about half an hour, and in between I'm showing you the 3M surgical tapes here. It comes in packets of 6 rolls, and those will last forever, really. Here I'm filling up a mini mister. I think the mini mister is by Ranger. I'm filling it up with a pipette, just with water to spray on. I'm taking off the cling film, and it actually hasn't dried totally, which was my intent, because I want to spray some water sprinkles on. And I'm using the mini mister and also just my hand, because if you do it by hand, it's more irregular, and I like that better. And I'm also picking up where I've put too much water, because it could destroy the nice cling film pattern. Actually, I think this one I should have left like that, but so I can show you what the water does. I'm sort of stamping out a sun here, and I'm using this wonderful brush that is called the Woolleys Wonderbrush. And it's designed by Peter Wooley, and I bought this one in large and also a smaller one. Hello Peter, if you're into watercolors, check out his channel. He's a wonderful watercolor tutor. It's just a very stiff round brush which works very well, and I just turn it on the paper, and as you can see, it even tore the paper apart a little bit, but that's only the top layer, and as I have a 300 GSM paper, it doesn't matter that much. So I'm picking this up with tweezers. The Woolleys Wonderbrush. I think Peter is laughing about that too himself. I'm testing the quinacridone Deep Gold by Daniel Smith, and I think it's a sap green, also by Daniel Smith. And I like both tones for the willow, or what do you call it? I think willow, that I want to create underneath this red sky. And the paper's almost dry, but not yet totally. Some parts are dry, and this is why we have a rather nice brush effect also. And the green is mingling just a little bit with the yellow, and not too much. Everything in watercolor is about timing. Just practice and you get a feeling for it. I'm adding some salt, and this is a rough salt, a sea salt, that I like for this purpose a lot because as you can see, the sizes differ. I'm adding the quinacridone Deep Gold here to the sky because it's such a nice color, and I want it like to be mirrored. I want the meadow be mirrored in the sky somehow, if you know what I mean. And by the way, I started this series because I was suggesting that I make watercolor videos and combine watercolors with the gel plate and also without them, and to repeat patterns and textures and how the watercolor artist Anne Blockley works. And I have several books by her. If you're into watercolor, you should definitely get at least one of them. She is magic what she does. And yeah, this is actually, the whole thing is actually one of her motifs, because I'm going to add sheep and then it's just like her. But I'm not showing you the original here because it's so much better than mine. So for the second image, I'm using a paper that's called TORCHON. TORCHON sounds French to me. I don't know what it means, with the 275 GSM. And as I'm using the watercolor on the gel plate, what you have to do is put a little bit, just a drop is enough, of dishwashing detergent and roll it out on the plate before you put the watercolor on. Also, I don't dilute the watercolor paint with water. I'm using the same colors, by the way. And as you can see, it's not diluted at all. And so it will not bead at all because of the dishwashing detergent. And I'm putting a foil onto that as well. The difference being that I don't have to wait for it to dry a little, because it will not run into the veins, so to speak. It's just, you can press it on and you have this irregular cling film pattern, and you don't have to wait because you get it right away. I pick it up with a torchon paper, trying to get the best part of it. As you can see, the gel plate is larger than the actual paper I'm printing on. You can see that the structures are very rough. That's partly because of this paper, which is very rough. And also still you can see the brush veins, the brush strokes, which I really like. Here I'm also stamping out a sun, but this time it's a foam stamp, a round one. And I just wet it with a foam stamp and then I pick it up with a tissue. And I didn't record it, sorry, but I've treated the gel plate with the dishwashing soap again. And also, this is almost off camera again. I'm so sorry, it just sometimes happens and I don't realize I'm totally off. And for this meadow, I'm using the super granulation paint by Schminke Horadam. It's called Glacier Green, and it's granulating very strongly. And the brown is the Raw Umber by Daniel Smith. So I'm printing just that in the lower part. And picking this up, I actually made something like a seascape now. I didn't expect that. It's due to the decalcomania effect that I created when I picked this up, which is strange because with porous paper it usually doesn't happen. And the residue left on the gel plate that you see here, I've used for another print, which you see me doing in the last video, part 1 of this watercolor series. Here is a link if you haven't seen it. Going back to the first image, which has dried for actually for a couple of hours, you really have to wait quite a long time for the salt to dry. If you take it off too soon, you will have no effect. And this is actually so dry that I can hardly get it off with a brush. So I'm also using what are they called? These things. Exacto knife to get the salt off. And this is some sort of a sponge. You can erase watercolor with this. Actually, you just have to make it wet just a little bit, or maybe if your painting is still a little wet, you can use this stuff, and it has this sharp edge, so I can rub in some sheep forms. And now I can work out the sheep with a pencil. It's that is as usual a polychromos colored pencil, and the color is burnt umber. It's actually very easy to paint sheep. These are the British sheep that have a black head. Yeah, they're very easy, but somehow I managed to fail at it because I gave them ears that are standing up, which is not right. So I have to erase the ears again. Probably had my dogs in mind, whose ears are standing up. I'm taking off the tape even before this one is finished. I love that so much when you take off the tape and discover that you've made a real work of art. This needs a little bit more workout, but now I'm going back to the print. I'm highlighting with a white pencil, I'm highlighting the sun a little bit. I don't know, maybe little white eruptions on the sun, or maybe it's a moon. No, I think it's the sun. Looks like daylight to me. So I'm enhancing the sunlight effect with a yellow pencil. And strengthening the cling film effects with a red pencil. I'm only filling in these details in the center or near the center of attention, which is the sun. It would look overworked if I did it everywhere. And also, I just don't have the time. these holes where there is no paint at all are actually always very good, because by putting a shadow on one side, you can give this more texture and dimension. Just imagine the light is coming from the top left, so you only make shadows on the top and on the left side. Fiddling away with the red pencil, and here you can see that there is a graphic element from the print, and I'm not trying to erase that. I'm enhancing that because the artificial kind of graphic gives a good contrast to the natural look of the biological almost look of the sky. And I had to correct the shape of the sun because it looked as though a 3-year-old had painted it. It wasn't really round. Now the water, the waves. I have decided it's water. So I'm kind of trying to work out that one wave in the back. And even though it's partly red, I kind of like that because it is also mirroring in the water, I think, the sky. And but I'm also adding some green pencil to contrast it a little bit. Wonderful, these waves. I'm so surprised that this happened. Normally you do the decalcomania effect with a piece of plastic or so. And I'm also spattering some white paint. It's just a regular white acrylic paint. It's actually not opaque, so I have to strengthen this a little bit. These patches are supposed to be water spray or foam. And back to the other one. The sheep are not wide enough for my liking, so I'm using a brush that is actually a makeup brush. And it's not as hard as the Woolleys Wonderbrush. It's quite soft, so you can have subtle effects from that. Also, I have to put some paint around the sheep to see the shapes of them better. And I'm still strengthening the cling film effects just a little bit. And it gives very good dimension to the sky. I love that sky. Sheep under a dramatic sky. I actually liked that part where the sun is, where it tore the paper, the woolly brush. It's kind of interesting. As the acrylic paint wasn't opaque enough, I'm just adding some highlights with a Posca pen. And I feel like painting a water drop here. Isn't that cute? So both paintings are ready now. Tell me in the comments which one you like better. This one with the gel printing technique, or the other one which is a pure watercolor painting. I like them both. And thank you, Anne Blockley, again for that great inspiration. I also have 2 more in this watercolor series. This one is so beautiful and I have a great idea, and this one is the already worked out 6th one of this series. And I don't know if you want to see that. Please tell me in the comments if you do want the 3rd part of the watercolor series. Thank you for watching. I had lots of fun. I hope you did too.